Welcome to Neighborful Station, Episode 46, Saturday, April 18th, 2026. On the first full day of your usual 3-day weekend, you are walking toward downtown to meet up with your neighbor Joshua and some friends for high tea at the Amethyst Tea Room. You will be celebrating Joshua's birthday. The weather is cool and cloudy, with a chance of rain in the forecast for later. The gray skies make the warm tones of the brick buildings downtown feel even brighter and more vivid in your field of vision. You notice several robins' nests in the upper reaches of the buildings along College Avenue, and their occupants are chatting away with each other as you pass. You feel a sense of lightness in your shoulders as you think about the weekend ahead, and you brush your fingers along the pebbly surface of the brick facade you are walking past as you take an easy breath. The tea room is on the top floor of the Neighborful Mercantile Exchange, which occupies the entire block of College Avenue and Grant Street. You enter the ground floor through a beautifully preserved revolving door with brass handles, and your eyes widen as you take in the scene before you. The sales floor has been turned into a forested campground with tents, grills, and picnic tables sitting in a deep bed of wood chips. There is a boardwalk through the middle for wheelchairs, strollers, and walkers, and a summer soundscape of crickets and cicadas is filtering gently through the space from the high ceilings. You notice Matthew sitting at one of the picnic tables, reading a book about camp cooking, and you sit down at the table across from him. Matthew looks up from his book, slightly startled, and he says, "Hello, you. Are you joining us for birthday tea this afternoon?" You tell him, "Yes, I am. But clearly I'm in the wrong place. I was supposed to go to a fancy tea room, and somehow I found myself in the woods." Matthew chuckles and says, "They've always gone in for elaborate displays here. This might be the most impressive one yet." You tilt your head as you look at him and you ask, "This is a department store, right? I've never come in here before, but I've always assumed that's what it was walking by." Matthew sets down his book and says, "Yes, it's a department store. A co-op, in fact, owned by the employees, and they sell memberships to their customers. The prices are just as good as you would get at one of the big box places up the highway. And they really have everything here. A dry cleaner, a day spa, travel agency, you name it." You say, "It's a one-stop shop." Matthew checks his watch and says, "2 stops in our case, shall we?" You tell him, "Yes, I'm following you." The elevator opens into a lobby with broad plank red oak floors and a host stand. You smell chamomile tea brewing, and you hear a piano playing softly in the distance. You relax your gaze, taking in the vibrant contemporary oil paintings hanging on the walls as you take a comfortable breath. At the host stand, Joshua is holding a postcard out to the host as he says, "We have a reservation for 6 for birthday tea." A smile plays at the edges of the host's lips as he says to Joshua, "Of course, sir. May we remind you, once again, that the Mercantile Birthday Club is generally offered to our patrons aged 14 and younger." Joshua tells him, "I'm a kid at heart." The host nods to Joshua and replies, "Indeed, sir, right this way." Your group is seated at a round table with a starched linen tablecloth, sitting near an ornate floor-to-ceiling window that looks out over the river through gauzy curtains. A grand piano sits at the far side of the room, and you recognize one of Elise's young piano students at the keys. When you sit down, there are already a pair of 3-tier serving platters on the table. One of them piled high with scones, and the other with finger sandwiches. You see hummus and cucumber, as well as peanut butter and jelly among the sandwich offerings. Joshua announces, "Welcome to my birthday tea, and thank you so much for coming. Before we get started, I want to remind everyone that you agreed when you accepted this invitation not to tell any embarrassing stories about me." Mayor Ashley, sitting across from you, declares indignantly, "I agreed to nothing of the sort. In fact, now that you've provoked us, we are obliged to tell embarrassing stories. It is tea service, after all." Matthew clears his throat and says, "Well, I don't know about that, but I do have just a little bit of a story. You see, I knew Joshua's grandmother very well when she was still alive, and I know how much she loved bringing you here to celebrate your birthday every spring. She signed you up for the birthday club in the first place, and I remember how she would make a big production of bringing you down here, having a proper afternoon tea together. She adored you, Joshua, and I know that you miss her." Joshua looks down at the napkin in his lap and swallows hard as he says, "I do." Mayor Ashley holds up her teacup and says, "A toast to Joshua's grandmother, who has brought us together here today. May her love always guide us." Everyone else lifts their cups for a moment, saying softly in unison, "Hear, hear." You take a sip of the chamomile, warm but not too hot, and slightly sweet on your lips, as you take a nostalgic breath. As the tea service winds down, Joshua tells the group, "My birthday is actually a month-long celebration. And because you know how much I enjoy singing, I want to ask all of you to come with me to the group sing at the farmer's market next weekend. Will you join me?" You say, "Yes. I'm usually a little off-key, but I do enjoy singing." Joshua assures you, "Oh, don't worry about that. The point is to enjoy singing together. It's always such a powerful experience." You tell him, "Then I will be happy to add my voice to the chorus." It is such a treat to celebrate the life of this community with you. Thank you for coming home to our town. Visit us today at neighborfulstation.us, where we invite you to join us as an official town resident.
Hi, this is Jane. I live in Missouri. And one day when my kids were little, I was getting them back from the park, and they didn't want to go back from the park. So they were screaming. I had not brought the stroller or any way to carry them, which was a miscalculation on my part, but I was essentially dragging two screaming toddlers down the street. And as I walked past a new neighbor's house, someone on my block, but who I had hardly met, she opened her door and said, "I have banana bread," because she knew that my kids needed a reset and they probably needed a snack. So it was such a relief. We went into her house where I had never been before. She fed the kids. Their mood improved, and she literally saved my day. So shout out to Megan. It is exactly the kind of neighboring that makes me love my block. Megan and I are now dear friends. Our families are friends. We hang out all the time. The kids are like constantly running around the block together, getting into good mischief, and we go on vacation together. We are becoming like family, which is exactly what I want for my neighborhood. So I'm happy to share that story.